All righty. We are live. I'm super excited, everyone. Tina, are we live? It's showing me that we're live. Yes, we are live. Yay! Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to get some stuff set up here. I'm going to have my cell phone ready to go in case I get some messages during the talk show that I can pass along to Tina. I want to thank our guests tonight. We do have both of them. We're just getting everybody kind of squared away, letting some folks come on in and join us tonight for our talk show. Super excited for this topic. Usually our topics are a little more on the serious side, but tonight we're going to have a really fun and a lively conversation, chatting with some families who are doing some super cool things. And I think that you all will be really excited to hear their stories and learn about them. Hey, Terrie, good to see you and Tommie. So just by way of introduction, I'm Brandy Baxter, the co-founder of Black Girl Fin Magic. I'll be your host tonight. Black Girl Fin Magic, for those of you who don't know, we're a 501c6 nonprofit organization for women of color who provide personal finance, information, education, and for entrepreneurs. We promote them, we support them, we help them grow their businesses. We do this by providing a community where they can be themselves and connect with other folks like them. We provide tools and resources to help them grow their businesses and their personal networks. If you're interested in learning a lot more about Black Girl Fin Magic, visit our website, which is blackgirlfinmagic.com. You can also follow us on all of our social media. And while you are there, I want to let you know a little thing that you can check out. I'm wearing the Black Girl Fin Magic t-shirt, and we're super excited. We have coffee mugs that say Black Girl Fin Magic. So if you're looking to support a local nonprofit, we hope to be your nonprofit of choice. So tonight's show, I'm super excited about. We're going to meet some moms and some and their children who are entrepreneurs are going to tell us their story. But I also wanted to let you all know that each month we host this talk show here on our Facebook Live page. And we try to come up with topics that our audience can relate to. So we want to thank you for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This is interactive. We have someone monitoring the chat line. So feel free to share your comments. Give a yes if you hear something you like, or if you have a question for our guests, feel free to chat. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We also want to let you know that our guests are invited to share their personal stories. So while we provide them this platform, they deserve all the credit for the great information that they're going to share. So at the end of our show, don't leave right away, because we want to invite you to follow them on their social media as well, and to learn a little bit more about them and what they're doing. All righty. So without further delay, let us go ahead and meet our guest tonight. So who would like to go first? Let's see. I'm going to start with Terrie and Tommie Dex. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves, and just don't give all the goodies away just yet, but a little bit about who you are and what you're doing these days.
All right. And first, I'm just so proud. This is his first live interview. So, but I'm Terrie Chantel, and I am a speaker and financial educator. I teach courses on how to keep or make more money in business and personal finance. And this is my son, Austin, aka Tommie Dex, who is a music artist, a photographer, and a Poshmarker. And I'll let him introduce himself.
My name is Tommie Dex. How you doing?
Hey, Tommie. So just so you know, I am totally your fan. I've been following all your mom's posts about you and your entrepreneur journey. And I must admit, Tommie, watching your story kind of is what motivated me to include this talk show and make it very family friendly, because I saw that the things that you guys have been doing, I was like, more people need to know about that as well as get encouraged. So thank you guys for being on our show tonight.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Drea and Amari Lewis, and I'm super excited to chat with them because Amari had a really creative classroom project, and when her mom was telling me about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to know more. So Drea, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and Amari and what you guys have going
on? So I am Drea Lewis, and I'm CEO of Brave Life Development Group. We're a personal development boutique with a focus on mental wellness. This is Amari. We had a project in school which took the best of both worlds. One, which is photography. She does her personal photography that he posts on his Facebook page and for his EP. Also dogs. So she took her best of both worlds to create a business. That's what we're going to talk more about today.
Yeah, great. So to the kidpreneurs, as we're calling them, Amari, I'm going to start with you. What made you decide that you wanted to come up with a business idea?
So what made you want to do that? She's being on camera, but she's trying.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, she's getting a little
stage. It's very nerve-wracking.
No worries.
Yeah.
It's just a conversation with friends. It's just us. So how about we bounce it over to Tommie? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Are you going to share with us?
You gonna say? No? Okay.
Okay, no worries. Drea, why don't you tell us a little bit about what she shared with you for her idea of starting a business?
So initially, without really knowing, of course, they test for the STAR test, and their teachers are generally teaching for that. But this school year, she happened to have a teacher who was also a military veteran and who was always thinking outside of the box to bring things to the classroom about real world experience. So she started them off with little tasks throughout the school year. Towards the end of it, she basically explained to them about, yes, it was good to get an education and to go to school and to get a job, but it was even more freeing to be able to own your own business. And so with that, she wanted to show them that just as hard as they were working to go to school, to maybe to sell, to go to college, to get a degree, you as hard and be just as dedicated if you were going to create a business. So she basically created a portfolio, brought them to the table to create what would need skill sets and training, information, reading, and all the things that will go into creating a startup. A lot of it was basically a thing that they would just want to do. So the sky was the limit. They got to decide. They create whatever they wanted to. And by the time Amari actually shared with us what she was doing, is she was joining me in one of my business ventures. And she began to just talk about getting funding. And so it wasn't like the regular road trip conversation. It was like, why are you asking about funding? What are you trying to exactly fund? And then she explained they'd been asked to create a business. You want to tell me what the name of your business was?
Picture Perfect.
Picture Perfect, basically. And so since she loved photography and she also loved pets, she wanted to create kind of this glam spa where the pets can come in. She called, the neighbor was Picture Perfect, but they'd have 3 different services that the pets could get. And this was mostly for cats and dogs. They can come in and the owners can choose from those 3 different services. Once the pets were completed, all the services were completed, they would also be taken into the photography room and have like a little small photo shoot. And one of those pictures would then be sent to the owner to let them know that their pet was ready to be picked up. And if the pet owners loved it, then they could come in and schedule maybe a photography session for their pet or for the pet in the family. So it was basically setting it up best for both worlds. She had to start with the basics. Obviously, she had to look at different locations. They had to come up with, how much it was the startup cost, what supplies that were needed, if they were going to be wholesale. I mean, it was clearly building a business from the ground up. There was no area that went untouched. Wow. And the teacher, she's military veteran, so she was very hard on them, but to their benefit. There are some kids, unfortunately, that did not complete it because they weren't really supported as well, especially by their families. Their families just thought that that's not what we're sending you to school for. To some extent, the teachers also were a bit reprimanded because it was so outside of the box. But for those kids that participated, it was something that they can take and then build upon even throughout the summertime, because they did this towards the end of the school years when they completed it. And so right now we're just at the stage of just taking it throughout the summer and just kind of building on it. And she's looking at a model for more of a mobile truck, a mobile service that she could provide as well, where she could go across the city and do photography and also provide those spa services as well from the truck.
I love it. And you touched on something that I do want us to revisit, the comment when you said that some of the kids didn't participate in the project. But when you told me about that first, I was just blown away, because that's really creative and thinking out of the box, and also empowering for the kids to acquire a skill that they can use. And like Amari's doing, turn it into a summer project. And this could be the beginning of some amazing things. And I wanted Amari and you on the show because some of the listeners or viewers may feel like, hey, my kid has an idea, I'm not sure how to get started, or I'm not sure, to do anything with it. And I just love that her teacher challenged her to, take the idea and do all of the research to really make it an opportunity that she can take advantage of. Thanks for sharing. All righty, over to
Absolutely.
Tommie. Tommie, I must say, I feel like I know you. Just reading the story. I particularly want you to talk about your experience with applying for a summer job and what happened and how that kind of launched you into what you're doing today. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that with us?
Well, I applied for Six Flags during school, and then I called them after school to get the interview with my friend. He told me about it. And then we went there the next day. Got the interview, and then it was a group interview. So we were all sitting in tables. They got to someone asked about hair and how long it should be, and they said it can be tagged. So my dreads, they weren't braided at the time, so they were on top of my head.
The bun, right?
They were on top of the buns, and they said can't have any ponytails or buns. And everybody looked at me. I was just sitting there, and then I asked them about it. They was like, "Yeah, you would have to cut it." They said you can leave if you want to. So I just left, and then told my mom. She got kind of mad. And then told me I don't need to get a job. That's why I would have to start my own business, so I don't have to worry about that. And I would still get more money than just the $8.25 an hour they would be giving me. So that's my own hour.
Perfect. Tommie, do me a favor, get a little bit closer to the mic, because that is so true. So many times we find ourselves in situations where limits are placed on us, right? And we have to have the ability to turn that into a positive. And I read that and how she encouraged you to say, you know what, you were going to invest that time working for them. Now invest that same time working for yourself. So tell us, what have you been doing with that time?
I started my post-launch business, and I'm starting a t-shirt business now. So I've just been working on both of those, and photography. I've been getting big for photography like that. Just making more businesses and grinding those.
So tell me a little bit, how has that felt for you? Thinking about sitting there in that group interview and they're telling you, everyone looks at you like, oh, you're gonna have to cut your dreads. And now you are creating things for yourself, doing things for yourself. How has that been for you? What does that feel like?
I feel like everyone that was in the interview should do the same thing. Realize that they don't have to be working there. They create their own business, their own journey, and don't have to sit in the hot sun at Six Flags all day.
I love it. Not have to sit in the hot sun at Six Flags. Awesome. And then I saw one of your clients, you did some photos for her. What was that part like for you, going out and actually getting your own clients? Talk a little bit about that experience.
Well, that was actually, I volunteered to take her photos. It was a whole volunteer thing, but it was like someone made her dress, someone got the food, the venue, everything was volunteered, and I went there
because she didn't have
the fun.
She didn't have money to go to prom.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
To go to prom. So it was a volunteer effort. Like, we're gonna make her prom special. He didn't even know. So yeah, that's how that one happened.
I love it. But you've been doing some other things too, like with your Poshmark store. How has that been for you? You know, kind of selling all your mom stuff.
Well, it's a lot of pictures I have to take, and then I have to put it all in Poshmark. You know, it's kind of tedious. Keep doing the same thing, but it's paying out. So
Yeah. So
awesome.
We started out with actually, he hasn't sold too much of my things. He's actually getting things from different people, and then, well, I don't want to speak for you. And then ask if you wanted me to help you get more stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to go to the thrift store. Start buying clothes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm teaching him that is actually called retail arbitrage.
Yep.
I don't talk about this business, but my husband and I are starting an Amazon store. So he's learning kind of that on the side, but the Poshmark is going well. So he's actually, because of the brand or so that he now has, he's been getting a lot of Poshmarkers. There's a whole community of them that are helping him behind the scenes and offering advice to him. But just to go back a second, that was my first time hearing him say that everybody looked at him. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't really hear all of the details of how it played out. So how did that make you feel in that moment?
Well, I didn't really care because I just went there I was trying to build my studio. I still am, and I just needed extra money. I knew they were going to give me a check, so I applied there. So when everybody looked at me, I was like, well, oh well.
You know, and one thing I love about him is that he doesn't realize it yet, but he has this natural, like, I don't care what people think about me. Like, I try to tell him, like, people really work hard to not care about other people's opinions.
Right.
You just don't, in a healthy way.
Right.
So when we left, everything I talked about in that post that went viral, all of that happened in the car and in the driveway. We probably stood in the car for about 30 minutes because I lectured, as I do, about everything under the sun. I probably said the I have a dream speech. I don't know, but it was like a long, and because I wanted him to understand, I knew that the day would come where his locks would be an issue for some place. And it's twofold, because on one hand, I had to teach him that there is a certain protocol standards in the way society works. But you have to have the wisdom to know when this is something I should follow because that's life. Right. I can't have pink, green, and yellow hair. That's life. But then there's also, okay, these standards and protocols are actually based on rules that uses someone not of my profile as a basis, and it's suppressing just who I am as a natural person. If that rule, if Six Flags tried to open up shop in Jamaica and tried to have that rule, it would make no sense. Right. So he's been having his hair since he was 7 years old. And to ask, and the whole reason he wanted them is to be just like his dad, who was an entrepreneur and hasn't worked for anyone in ever, pretty much. So it's not just because he wants his hair. It's not just because it has nothing to do about not understanding how to follow rules, and he's a pre-AP student, AB, star athlete, good grades, all that. So he knows rules. It was just not letting that seed get planted that got planted in me at an early age, that you put yourself in a box to be able to move around. Like you have to know when to draw the line and continue to be yourself. So that was the lesson that I wanted to teach him, that there are rules you have to follow, but then there are some times where you have to say, wait a minute, no, this is who I am as a person, and I'm not going to change who I am. And if I do have to sacrifice something, it surely will not be for $8.25.
Right.
That was the lesson. So,
and I'm glad you mentioned that, Terrie, because you're right. This is not about rules or trying to be contrary, but it's about having the freedom and the flexibility to say, this is who I am authentically, and I'm not going to compromise that. And I think that's a testament to you and also to Drea as the parents who can give this space to your kids to say, you know what, here is an opportunity for you to live out your life creatively, and also for you to live out the way that's beneficial for you. Right. So I'm glad that you all have created that. And Andrea, let me bounce it back to you really quickly, because I want to talk a little bit more about what about some of the parents who may feel like, oh, they're just kids. They don't need to do this. That's not a real business. You know, you had that experience with your daughter and the teacher where some of the parents simply didn't even support the project. So if there is someone maybe watching now or watching the replay who may feel like, well, I don't even know how to support my kid in this thing, what advice would you give to them?
I would say learn together. Probably is one of the greatest opportunities to learn right alongside your kid. You know, times have changed. I remember my son creating his own business in his little lemonade stand and just doing it on his own and going out in front of the house on the sidewalk. He was his own marketing. He was everything. And so just looking now, 12 years later at my daughter, who not only was able to create this business, but had to do a marketing plan with it, and had to actually go online and create a marketing plan, color scheme, I call it gimmicks, a website, all these different components to it. There's a lot about it that I didn't understand, and I didn't necessarily know what was being required and how much was too much or just enough, because, oh, it's just a school project. And I realized when I came into one, just to take a step back, and as far as she was willing to take it, just allow her to take it. And if she got to a point where she was stuck, I think we had this nice little discussion in the kitchen about Word documents and Google Docs, right? And so, of course, we're the parents and we're too old, we don't know anything. And anything that they've read or the teacher tells them, even if it's misunderstood, that's what it is. And until she got a glimpse of understanding, oh, mom knows a little bit more than what I give her credit for, and so maybe I should jump from this document to this document. It was an opportunity where the rubber met the road, and I was be there in a way that wasn't necessarily just challenging to her and what she was trying to do, but challenging her in a way where there's other ways to do it. And when she tried it and realized, wow, this was a little bit easier and I can get a little bit more done, I think it allowed us to work together. I was able to learn some things from her, and I was able to learn some passions that she had and some things that she desired to one day have. You know, of course, the money was a big deal. Like, I'm gonna create this business, I'm gonna make lots of money. And you don't want to kill that dream, yeah, definitely go for that. But while you're creating it, you know, scale it in a way that even if you feel like you want to sell it and move on to something else, let's put some options out there. And I think just watching her grow and her imagination grow, and watching my son kind of jump in all over it at one point, trying to take it over, and then learning, and by watching them, just by being free with business and enjoying creating a business, because it's not always enjoyable starting a business, right? I think I was able to learn just as much from her in this particular moment and opportunity in her life as she was able to heed some of the things that I was able to tell her. So the support, I think, was mutual. I was learning as I was growing my own business from a 12-year-old that was creating a startup project for the classroom.
Wow. I love it. Learn together. Great advice. Terrie, what would you say to someone who, say their teenage son comes home and he's like, I've had enough of working at McDonald's. I want to start my own business. What advice would you give to another family?
I would say, one, to give them the blueprint, but don't fill in the blanks. What I mean by that is I let him drive the bus. So if when he says I want to start a business, instead of saying you should start X, Y, and Z, I'm going to ask, what are you interested in? What do you like? And to suppress the feeling of wanting to impose my opinions. That's the biggest thing, is that just try to pull it out of them instead of putting it, like put the principles there, the foundation, open their mind up to it, let them know what's out there, but really try not to give them the answers. Just say, okay, well, you could do this type of thing and this type of thing. Now, here are 20 different ways you can fill in those blanks, because that teaches them to think in a way that entrepreneurially, to be creative, to look into themselves, because I feel, just being a corporate dropout, that we're so accustomed to working for a vision that someone else has defined. We're so accustomed to being a part of an operation where the mission statement and all of that was there when we got there. Right. So I try to be the opposite with my child. I'm not going to define your mission. I'm not going to spoon feed you a vision. I'm going to show you that a mission is a thing you should have, a vision is a thing that you should define, and then help you figure out how to do that. When he first started, he wanted to promote his first song, and this is something that I didn't post about on my page, but I posted about it in the group, and it went viral. And then it was the first time he went viral, but he went viral in the group for something I posted. And I was like, oh my God, I got full of anxiety and I deleted it, because I'm like, I don't want all these people knowing. It was a moment I had. I didn't even post it on my page. It probably would have gone crazy on my page, but his first marketing thing, I don't know, I don't want to take up too much of the time, but the first thing he did to try to get followers, I was cringing, but I let him go through it. And he came up with a marketing idea, a whole challenge on Instagram, this whole thing. And the whole time in my mind, I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. But I just was like, yeah, go for it. And yeah, he gave away $500. I'll just put that out. That was a hard one, but he had to learn. It was a marketing, maybe people talk about, but so that was just an example of how I had to just let him, because I believe in failing fast. So if it doesn't work, you need to know that you learn a whole lot more trying things. So you just let him try.
Perfect. I love that. Give him the blueprint, but don't give him the blank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drea.
That was great. I said the way Terrie just explained that is really awesome. Even after this project was done, my oldest son put something out too, but I started looking at it as like, when your kids are growing up, it's almost like a rite of passage for them to learn how to ride a bike. And the way I see it is that Amari may grow up and never create her own business. This business may never manifest to, as she's created it on paper. She may go to work with someone and build their dreams, but she will know from this day forward, just like when you first learn to ride a bike, I may not ride a bike to work today, I may drive, but I know if my car ever breaks down, if I have a bike in the garage, I know how to ride it, I could get on it, and I can at least get started. So to me, I just like in the project it was the same thing like riding a bike. So even if she goes off and does something totally different and work for someone else and help build someone else's dreams, if at any point she decides she wants to jump on that bike or go back to building a business of her own, she's already worked those muscles and realized that I've already done this before. I can jump back on and get going. It may take me a little while to get going, but I've done it before. And I think that's great. The blueprint is, I think, the best option we can always give our kids for just about anything. And especially in exploring things they love and building businesses and place.
Absolutely. So Terrie talked about failing fast. So Tommie, you're up. What has been the most challenging part of you with being a young entrepreneur? Thank you, Terrie.
The most challenging part, I would say, is maybe like wanting to keep working because I don't have to. So I would have to make myself. Tomorrow I got to get up in the morning and take these pictures for posture. You get real lazy if you don't try. That would be the hardest part.
Wow, that is so profound because you bring up a really good point. As children, your parents take care of all the big bills. So you're right, you don't have that same motivation as, say, your mom or your dad who are running businesses because they know they need to pay the utilities and the mortgage. And so you don't have that same challenge. First of all, I want to commend you. That's very good self-awareness and recognizing that. And so thanks for bringing that out. And for those watching, that's definitely something to kind of encourage your kiddos to work through. So Terrie, have you noticed that he's kind of working through that? And if so, how are you encouraging him to work through it?
Yeah, so what did you tell me yesterday in the kitchen? Remember I said, he said that I was pushing him. I know I told him, I said, I just want to let you know, I know I pushed you, but you're doing a great job. And you said,
that I know because if you didn't, I wouldn't be doing it.
And I was like, that was very self-aware. I said, I know, but, so he basically said, I know, but if you weren't pushing me, I wouldn't be doing it. So, like, thank you. He kind of said it like, but I appreciate it. So
right.
I do push him but at the same time, at 16, man, you are literally running 3 things right now, building 3 things. And I have to be conscious of that, wow, he really is just 16. And if he wakes up at noon, remember he's 16, like he's 16 because many adults won't even get started. So right. I have noticed that. So I am very conscious to applaud him and to remind him and affirm him because I don't want him to have imposter syndrome or not make him feel like I'm doing all this work and it's still not enough,
Right.
So I do notice it, but it's not for a 16-year-old, you're doing great. So it's really not anything to notice. I mean, he does the Poshmark. He creates all of his businesses are to feed his passion of music. He has music out there I haven't even been promoting. He wanted to build a studio in his room. And so we're doing all of this because I told him that I would invest in you when you invest in me. So once you make $500, I'll give you $500. But I'm just not looking for $500. So
right.
He's like, well, let me go get a job at Six Flags, and let me do this and let me do that. So he made more. So I had to pay up fairly quickly. Like within 2-3 weeks, he made his $500. But I had to have a conversation with him. I really pushed him with the photography and the Poshmark because he really just solely wanted to focus on music. And do you remember, and this is for other kids too, why did I tell you you can't just focus on music?
Because I need something that makes me money because music won't in the beginning. And I need something to feel that, wow, being able to, in the event, basically.
Yeah. So we have to learn. Yeah, passions don't always pay. So you can't just focus on your passions all the time. And that was the lesson I kind of had to that was the big push that I had to get. It was like, well, it's not as fun. It's not as fun as everything else is not as fun as doing music. And it was a really big lecture in multiple lectures. I said that is the number one mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, that you think you're supposed to focus on a thing that's fun, and it's not. It's like fun is only a percentage of it. So you cannot only have ambition for the parts of the project that you have to have that same drive for all parts.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Drea, you talked a little bit about working on the project alongside Amari. What do you think were some of the areas that she maybe needed a little bit more support in? Terrie talked about imposter syndrome. We're also just remembering that her son is a child. So what about for you? What were some of those moments when you kind of were working with her on this project and you were like, wait, she's still a kid. Let me let her be a kid.
I think when it was talking about as far as raising money and finding funding, basically, of course, you know, there are many ways, there are many options you can use these days. And I think I cut myself off guard in trying to explain a lot of those, realizing most of those she wouldn't be interested in, for one, and that I would need to find out what were some ways she thought, or some people she thought then maybe we could ask or approach in finding someone to help fund the business or partner with her on that. I started introducing ideas, what about, instead of, oh, we need to look here, or, oh, you need to go check this out. Realizing that this wasn't something that was paying bills or paying an allowance. So it's only so much that she was going to do. I wanted to kind of keep the momentum up. So it was working alongside with her and suggesting and kind of reading some things that reading into what she was thinking of and helping support her in that way. And then whenever she came back with whatever, just trying not to go against it, just understanding what it was that she proposed and figuring a way to work that in, basically.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. So Tommie, back to you really quickly. You have watched your parents both work for themselves and run businesses. How did that influence you and your decision to say, you know, I think I can do this?
Just seeing them do it seems normal to me. So I just assumed, like, okay, I can do this. They're doing it, and I could do more. You know, and then they teach me what they know. So it's just raw learning and growing.
Good. Yeah, and so that's a good example for, you know, those that are watching the video, is that if you are an entrepreneur, don't keep it to yourself. You know, share your ups and downs with your children. Like Terrie was saying, you know, giving them the blueprint and letting them kind of fill it in for how they want it to look. Just like Drea said, you know, remembering that this is their idea and letting them have the opportunity to bring their ideas and you work it in to the plan so that it works. That's good having those examples. So now I want to shift just a little bit and talk to Terrie and Drea about your experiences as entrepreneurial parents. Do you find, and I know they're both in the startup stage, do you find yourself kind of parenting them a little differently now that they're kind of becoming mini moguls?
For me, for the first time, we parent the same. I parent the same. Nothing's changed there. But now that he's making kind of, you know, okay, you're making money and we're starting something and I know it has potential, I find myself asking, wait, so what money is his and what is mine? Because so that's a new thing, is I realize that I'm going to have to start dealing with money with my son, and I'm not quite sure how to figure that out yet, because we're launching the t-shirt business and we're vlogging, because he vlogs on Instagram totally for his age group. And I'm like, we're gonna vlog the things that we do. And I lost the footage for the second vlog. Oh my God. But I was like, you know, we're promoting, you're gonna sell shirts. So I'm teaching him about just all the things. And so, wow, okay, when we start selling these shirts, his money, my money, our money, you know, so I'm like, okay, I have to start respecting his money and his decisions. And So I'm like, okay, we're becoming business partners. And
Right.
I'm his manager a little bit, but also a partner. So that is new because it's like, okay, I have to figure this part out. But I don't know, to be continued.
Oh my gosh, that is definitely something.
On the spot. So when we sell a shirt and we make $10,000, how much is yours? How much is mine? Half.
Sounds like I like where I live.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Drea, what about you? Do you find yourself approaching parenting a little differently?
I wanted to say no, but I think so, and then more so that I now employ my two kids in my actual business, and so I've done that. I'll teach them lessons, and in those lessons, well, if you're an employee, these are certain things that you have to get done. If there's an expectation that this is going to be done in this amount of time on this day, and it's not, then I mean your pay gets docked. You're up on probation, like real life scenarios. And a lot of times, well, at first, it was a joke to them, and they're like, yeah, until they would wake up now on Saturday mornings and I'd already be gone, missed out on money. And so I see now that they take it a little bit more serious. So the parenting has been different, where I learned to now, okay, it's parenting time, and now it's more of employer-employee time, because I want them to be able to take that serious. So if at any point in time they move into full-time entrepreneurship, they understand different levels of it, and I guess as well. So there are times we do joke. Of course, on Sunday mornings in church, I ask them where, did they put their tithes in, because I know how much they made. And so, that there's a little banter that goes back and forth with it, because I'm still the mom, but I know I'm an employer, so I paid you, so I know how much money you got, and you should be putting a little bit more in or whatever. But I think in all of it, it's still parenting. It's still teaching. It's still facilitating. It's still learning from your kids, things that are happening out, generation back home. So I'm still learning a lot from them in how to parent on the basic side, and how to parent and continue to give them the skills and the confidence, and I think the self-esteem to keep them moving in the world when they're with me, or when they're around others, and outside of the home as well. So I think it's all running hand in hand right now.
Perfect. And I'm glad you touched on self-esteem, because Terrie mentioned it a moment ago as well, the imposter syndrome. Have either of your children experienced that, either a self-esteem challenge or a little bit of the imposter syndrome because they are young? Do you think that that's been a factor for them, their age?
Not this one. Oh. This one walks past the mirror. Ooh, well, he's sexy. So, but I'll shoot that to him. So, imposter syndrome is where you accomplish a lot of things and everybody else can see how great you are, but to yourself, you don't even see that you've done a great job or you've done anything. And a lot of adults have a hard time giving themselves credit. And so it kind of makes you feel like, wow, I'm not successful. So that's what that is. I don't think you've experienced that, but do you maybe have friends, or what would you say to a child that doesn't feel self-confident?
I would say that, it's your life, so it's about you. So don't worry about what other people think. When you're doing a lot of good things and people are complimenting you, and you think you don't do enough, you just realize what all you've done and how that's harder for some people to do. So just realize you're accomplished.
Good. Thank you. I love it. It's your life. And that's so good, Tommie, especially hearing it come from you, because there are going to be young folks watching the replay with their parents, and the kid may actually have a great idea and they're afraid to share it with their parents or afraid to share it with their friends because they're just afraid. And so to hear you say, hey, it's your life, and if people are complimenting you, that means you're doing good. So to keep doing it. So thank you. Terrie, did you want to add anything about that? Maybe for the parents who may have a child that's kind of going through some of that imposter syndrome?
I would say I have 4 boys, and they all have come with different things. So I have experienced that with my other son, and I tried so many different methods. The one thing I can say, 2 things. Number one is that kids, their feelings are valid, and we should address them just as we would in adults. We should consider them, we should receive them, we should process them, and not just dismiss them as childish. Oh, boy, you'll get over it because I said so. Like really dive deep and address and give them the floor to feel and say how they want to feel so that they can express that. So you'll know how, you'll be more armed, and you'll have more knowledge on how to address why they're feeling that way. Thing is, out of all of the tactics that I've used, I have 17, 16, 14, and 9. I've done the discipline, I've done the spankings, I've done the punishments, I've done the this. Love prevails. Loving them through whatever that thing is always was the tactic that worked the most. And if your child is, a lot of the time they act out in different ways that don't match what the problem really is. It may come out at school, it may come out as an attitude, it may come out as loneliness or depression, but there's something there. It just looks different. And embrace them more, love them more attention, more compliments, more hugs, more kisses. That just solves it. That just solves it. So you just have to affirm them. You just have to affirm them. And, it sounds so simple, but hugs. I remember when my son was going through a time, my middle child, I've never announced this. I'm actually a full-time homeschool. I homeschool my middle child since September of last year. It was a decision that I had to make because he was going through confidence and different things. And I just, one day I just said, that's it, you're staying home with me because the discipline, all that was not working. You needed me. So it was a huge sacrifice, but huge. I'm like, I can't even, don't ask me how I solved it. I'm still trying to solve it. But love, man, just meet them where they are. Just pour into them. Just give yourself to your child the same way you would give yourself to your marriage, because they need it. Because once they're gone, that's your opportunity. That's the way you solve it. That's the only thing I know.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I'm just chuckling when you said huge. I can only imagine. Yeah, that whole homeschooling thing, you have to be in the right frame of mind to make that work. So kudos to you for that.
Yes.
And thank you for saying that. Yeah. Drea, what about you? What kind of advice would you give to parents who are kind of raising a kid that's struggling a little bit with the confidence to jump out and have their own business?
I don't even know if it would be the confidence to have their own business, but I think just to explore different things that they would like to do. I think as adults, sometimes we put heavy words on it. And it doesn't have to be just put business. It can be a hobby. It can be just an idea. It can be something that you want to explore, this weekend, but you may want to try something out next weekend. I think if we watch our kids, we then begin to understand a little bit more about what makes them tick. I know just even coming on here today, it's not a big thing for my daughter, right? Because there's a little social anxiety built up there. But also she's more of a pet person than she is a people person. But I've learned that about her when she was like 2-3 years old. She could be at her happiest when she's surrounded by pets, dogs especially, than when she's around kids playing on the playground. And so me understanding that when she says, Mom, I just can't do it, I have to trust and believe that she's saying, this is my limitation. I'm not there to do that yet, you know? And there are times where there are certain things I challenge her and say, well, you don't have to do as much, but at least let's show up. And so with her showing up, that's one thing that's just made me proud, you know, of her, because in this, I don't know what the next step she may want to take. I don't know what seeing Tommie on here, what ideas she's already, how her self-esteem now may have been challenged, and she may be more excited into trying some other things outside of what she's already created. So I think it's just accepting them and meeting our kids, just like people, meeting our kids right where they are. And from that point, taking this journey and walking them through whatever it is they're trying to create or do or be. And I think, like she said, the love, just being there and knowing that they know that we love them no matter what they're choosing. And that we're here for when they're ready to go and do something bigger that they feel is bigger than themselves, and that we support them in it. I mean, I think just in our own, you know, right, as adults, we find we have lots of challenges. We suffer from imposter syndrome so much, or, you know, to the point that I don't like social media as much. And I know in the business world, it's like, no, you have to be on social media. You have to do, but I had to be more authentic, and me getting on social media would not be authentic for anyone. It would be a show. It really be. And I'd have to prep myself for that. But if I'm able to just write something and just like a conversation where it feels like it's just us in the living room, and it's comfortable and it's authentic. So I think a lot, not only meeting our kids where we're at, but meeting ourselves, understanding ourselves, meeting ourselves where we're at, and then taking that journey one step, one day at a time, as well as we're building.
Absolutely. And I just want to take a moment and also applaud Amari for hanging out with us, because I have a daughter that's shy. And when you mentioned that social anxiety, Drea, folks, they don't believe me when I tell them, but I also have a bit of social anxiety in crowds. And so I definitely appreciate, don't laugh, Drea, you know it's true, but I appreciate her hanging out with us, you know, because the thing is, her presence will speak volumes to other kids. There are other kids who are watching who will say, you know what, I don't know if I could have said anything or if I could have spoken. But the very fact that she stayed and maintained her presence and showed up for this, it's going to definitely communicate to other kids who may struggle in that area. So yay, super excited. Okay, we are like cruising right along, coming up towards the end of time. So before we wrap up, I want to ask the moms again a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. What got you into working for yourself? Were you at a young age like your children, or were you a lot older, and kind of what started your entrepreneurial journey?
For me, I never even thought about entrepreneurship until I graduated college and was in maybe a year or so into my first job. That I realized, okay, I'm not going to do this forever. And I, like many people, I ventured off into different things. Janneking, I think I was a model scout for one day. I was like, just a bunch of stuff, right? Just trying to figure it out. And I landed in the tax accounting field because accounting was one of the majors I considered. And I started that about 2 years into my corporate career. So I did it as a side hustle my main job was in computer information systems. I'm an IT geek. So I was a project manager for over 10 years, but on the side, I ran my business. And then I decided to go full time because it was time, you know, just everything, it was time. And I am now in a very good place, happy, and have grown several businesses and passing that down to my children as well. And it's been a journey, and you evolve and you grow and you learn. And the biggest takeaway that I would say is that what you're doing today may not be what you're doing in 10 years. And when it's time for you to pivot, whether it's from corporate to entrepreneurship or from one business to another, just recognize it and roll with it. And that has been my journey that has allowed me to elevate from, you know, one level to the next. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrie. What about you, Drea? Kind of how did you get started?
I would say that, while on active duty, I was able to do some things, but it was in the comfort of having a 9-to-5, and I always got paid on the 1st and the 15th. So it never, I could say, was really something I was just really just diving into, right? Retiring and then coming out, I think once I was able to get some footing underneath me and felt I had some stability, I started realizing that, things that I was doing to build other people's dreams or build their businesses or programs within their corporations was some of the same desires that I had to build of my own, and that I could be the final say on how I could create something, when to roll it out, how to roll it out, and then how to ensure that it was sustained. And once I realized that I had a great support, network around me, and I had friends that I consider family who were also kind of like in this race with me, that was willing to fail fast, but also fail forward. I really feel like that just kind of gave me my wings, because I didn't feel like I was going it alone. I don't mind working alone, but I like feeling like I have someone else I can call that's in the game with me, that if I need to say something, I don't have to explain it all the way out, because they understand. So I think just that particular comfort gave me enough stability and allowed me to build a foundation where I can just launch little by little and continue to grow, that I didn't have to, hit the ground running. I could really take a snail pace at it, learn what I needed to learn, meet who I needed to meet, create what I needed to create, and little by little, introduce it to the world. And so that has been, like, for myself, my own greatest gift for myself is actually getting up, realizing I could do it, doing it, and then on the back end saying, man, I did it. And so I don't know. That doesn't mean you don't get nervous, that you're not scared, that you don't have butterflies, that even when you go to negotiate that contract, there aren't some feelings of, well, should I ask for that much or not? Questioning. But the more and more I do it, I think the more and more I continue to affirm myself in going after what it is that I want, and standing steadfast in it, and not being shaken by what's going on around me. And so right now I'm just enjoying the journey. I'm doing what I love to do, and I'm having meeting people and enjoying life while I'm doing it, and I'm getting paid for it. Like, I can look in my bank account and be like, girl, you did it. So I don't know. That's probably the biggest part of it.
Awesome. Perfect. Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Tommie Dex, Terrie, Drea, and Amari, for such a great conversation tonight. Many golden nuggets were shared, and I know our audience is going to appreciate that. But before we end our time together, let's give a moment where you all can tell the audience how they can connect with you online and keep up with all of the great things that you all have doing. Tommie Dex, why don't you start us off by giving your social media information so folks can catch up with you?
Our social media is Tommie Dex, TOMMIEDEX, on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, also that.
Awesome. Thanks. Terrie, give a little bit about your social media, how folks can connect with you as well.
Yes, you can find me everywhere at Terrie Chantel, TERRIE, Chantel. Chantel, TerrieChantel.com on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Awesome. And they can see the spelling of your last name on this recording as well. Drea, tell folks how they can connect with you.
Yes, and so for now on Instagram, you can find me at Drea Lewis, Drea_Lewis, and on Twitter at I am Drea Lewis.
Awesome. And does Amari have any social media you want to share, or just connect with you to reach out to her?
No, I think she's redoing her Instagram page with her photos and stuff on it, so it'll be up shortly.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again to all of our guests. We really appreciate you sharing your stories, providing inspiration and encouragement for our audience. Speaking of our audience, perhaps you want to be a guest on our show and maybe share your story. We are always looking for guests on the Black Girl Fin Magic monthly talk show, as well as our podcast. You can reach out to us at Brandy, BRANDY, at blackgirlfinmagic.com, or find us on all of our social media as well, which is at Black Girl Fin Magic. Stay tuned for next month's topic, where we are going to discuss the pros and cons of financial independence, retire early, otherwise known as FIRE. Is this FIRE movement right for the Black community? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our guests. It's been a pleasure. Have a great time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All righty.